right, everyone. I am here with Jeremie Audran. Jeremie, thank you so much for joining us at the Demand Gen Summit. Really excited for this conversation. For those of you that don't know Jeremie, he's head of marketing and operations at Broadcom, and we are going to be talking about marketing to your customers to focus on the cheapest way to grow and achieve profitability. But before we get into that, just want to let Jeremie give you guys a little bit of his background and his experience, and what he does at Broadcom.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So the biggest thing that I have is I've been doing marketing for the last 20 plus years, roughly. I had every role within marketing world. More recently, more heavily onto the operational side for the last, I would say like 8 to 10 years. Worked at a company like Aquant, Hitachi, Skillsoft, ZoomInfo, and these days I'm at Broadcom. I'm located in the Northeast in Boston. Obviously, I don't sound like I'm from Boston, although some of it will come out. Grew up in France and moved here to be with my lovely wife. I now work at Broadcom for the last couple of months, and Broadcom is a very interesting company because everybody knows Broadcom from the semiconductor point of view. Everybody knows that Broadcom makes chips, and you have chips on your iPhone, your watch, your everything. They're Broadcom chips everywhere. But what is not so known is that Broadcom has a software division. And that software division is it's the small side of the business. It's a $7 billion business, which would be pretty healthy on its own. And it includes a lot of acquisition because that's the way Broadcom grows. So Symantec Enterprise is part of it, Computer Associates. And now we're gearing up for the second or third biggest tech acquisition in history with VMware. So we're going to grow to a $20+ billion software vendor. So that's how, and that's that side of the equation that I'm working on. And I'm coming on board in the midst of a lot of migration, a lot of changes, obviously getting ready for the future. So that's where we are at Broadcom.
Awesome, interesting. I'm sure it's exciting to be there right now. So you had a couple principles. You had 3 principles along this theme of marketing to your customers. And I just wanted you to walk us through at a high level what those are, and then we'll dig into them as you go along. But what's your first principle, Jeremie?
So our first principle is know your universe. I've seen that so often working at different size company where people say, oh, we have our universe, but they don't really define it. They say, oh, we're going after that ICP. Then you run the ICP for like a ZoomInfo, and it's like 1 million companies. And you're like, yeah, it's a little bit broad. Like it's a little bit hard. Like how many of those are your customers? And people say, oh, what's your total attainable market? And so all those are very interesting means to get to where you want, but they're a little bit too broad. Yep. And it's not like if you can just take the entire database and put into your system to say, this is my universe. You have to be a lot more picky and choosy of where you're going to go with. And so that's kind of like the principle is like knowing your universe, and we've applied it very specifically here at Broadcom. So what I've seen is that companies, it's easy for them to get about 80% of their business. Whether you're running a 5, 10 million, 100 million, or 1 billion ARR, 80% of your business is very transactional. You can move forward with it. The other 20% are all the oddballs and all the weird account, or the hard account to penetrate, or the hard account to get a meeting with. And when you go and ask reps and marketing, they will spend, it's kind of the invert pyramids. 20% of their time will be spent on 80% of their revenue, and then 80% of their time will be spent on the 20% of the revenue.
Yeah.
It's like you see that everywhere. Like it's common. So Broadcom actually decided on something pretty drastic. They say 600 of our accounts represent over 50% of our revenue. And everything else, we're just going to let partners manage. And so with partner, you don't get as big of a profit margin, but you also have no overhead, or very little overhead. And so you're able to manage your business differently. So we have about 600-ish accounts at Broadcom that are, we call core account. And those accounts usually have their customers of more than one division. And they're the biggest customers that we have. So it's not
Yeah.
like net new. We don't do net new acquisition. We don't go after new business. That's what we have partners for. And that's a
Interesting.
luxury that large company can have. Small company don't have that luxury.
Yep.
And those 600 accounts is where we really try to basically say, we have 5 divisions. You're a customer of 2 divisions. How do we get you to become a customer of the 5 divisions? And it's a penetration plan, because you already have the relationship, you're already a vendor of choice, they're already spending millions of dollars on you. So how do you get them to spend a couple more million?
Yeah. What are some of the things that you guys do to, because if you're in a huge, your customers are obviously very big companies for the most part as well. So you're in one division. How do you get them to say, hey, we're using Broadcom here. Let's start the conversation with the next, division or two.
So a lot of our product, the acquisitions were strategically made where the product offering that we have are complementary one to the other. It's not like if we
Yes.
have competing products. So if you think about mainframe is like every bank in the US has a mainframe, or in the world. They
Yeah.
have a mainframe. So then there's software to manage the mainframe. Mainframe are basically like the ways to get the most out of your data center. They're going to do something very simple, but they're going to do it like hundreds of millions of times over and over. Like think about your calculation of your 401k. It has to be run every day for the entire system. That's what a mainframe does. But then we have Symantec Enterprise that offers data security for the mainframe. So those two are kind of married in a lot of ways. You can approach a customer who's a mainframe customer and say, we can sell you this other product to basically make your data more secure. And then you have software developers. So we have our automation division that does like Rally and Clarity. Okay, those are systems that allow you to do like project management and to do like AI ops or data ops, all those things. So they're complementary. And in the future, when we go view like a VMware element, okay, well, you have your data center, but then you have your cloud, your public cloud and your private cloud. How do you extend your data center across? So your mainframe is not limited to the amount of like square footage you have in New Jersey or in Arizona, but you can actually expand it to that cloud. So everything is built upon, there's a story to be told. And then it's about understanding how that will fit that given customer. So if you apply that to a smaller company, it's all nice and neat. You have your one software that you sell. If you're going to do an acquisition, if you're going to go do a new feature set, just always make sure that it's an easy upsell or cross sell.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the main thing. If you're a smaller company, and you're innovating, whatever you innovate, it should easily be something that your current customers should not have to think a lot about to say, does it make sense for us to use this? The answer, I think,
Yes.
should be pretty easy to say, oh, like, are all of them going to use it? Probably not, but they should at least be able to say, yeah, I think we could use this, and
Yeah.
at least give it a pilot. So, okay, so
And I've seen that at previous companies. When I was at ZoomInfo, it was the same way. ZoomInfo had developed a extremely well-oiled acquisition machine where
yeah,
they went to buy complementary product that were not ultimately addressing the data side of the house, but how do you use the data? And it
yeah,
was an extremely smart, and Henry and Chris at the company are extremely smart at doing just the right acquisition at the right time to grow their footprint, and they're able to turn around to their customers and say, hey, we bought Chorus. Chorus complements ZoomInfo, goes together, and then it's a market changer, game changer for their customers.
I agree. Those guys, they've been brilliant in the way they buy companies and just add on to what they're already doing for their current customers.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about at a high level, we all understand this, knowing who your universe is, who your customers are, that real ICP that it's easy to sell to, and that's profitable for you to one, penetrate that account and get into it, and then two, grow those accounts. But what type of data are you looking at to make those decisions?
So that's where, when you have a very finite universe, you get to invest in getting the right data. Who's working there? So like there's all the basics of like what's the corporate structure, what's the parent-children accounts, what's the people that work there, what's their title. All that you can get pretty easily with like a ZoomInfo or Clearbit or any of those vendors. You can get that and you can ingest it. But really where it matters, especially when you cross-sell upsell, is what are they interested in? What is the intent data? So that's where you invest your money. How many topics can you go and buy for intent data to get the most out of your customer? And how do you map it properly? So then you have to do like a more, that's where you have your ICP, you do like your Venn diagrams, where you have like your ICP, then you have your intent data, and then you have the people, and you have that sweet spot in the middle. Okay, these people are interested in this thing, and they work at that company, and they have these titles. So you're able to build very, very, very targeted campaigns that sometimes will be just like 20 to 50 people. But at our size, 20 to 50 people is pretty much where we were going, because I want 20 CISO at Fortune 100. Those 20 CISO might have buying power of tens of billions.
Yep.
So having the right process to get the right people there, and then developing the engagement for those people. Those people are not going to come to your website. They don't care, nor should they. They very likely not going to automatically react to email the same way, but they will react to maybe an email or an invitation from our CEO to come to a bespoke event where there will only be 20 of them.
Yeah.
And so you end up by developing a very different type of tactics. And I don't want to go towards the word of like ABM. It is ABM-ish, but it's more ultra-targeted, experiential target tactics, where you don't get too hung up on, do I have the money you're spending to get those 20 people might be more than what you'll be willing to spend if you're a startup. And the dinner might cost you $1,000 a pop or whatever it is. But in this context, it makes total sense.
Yeah, it does when the account value is that high. I think it is an ABM, but I think it's more along what you're describing is what I like to call account-based engagement. Like, how do you actually engage with these people at a real, meaningful, and personalized level or experience? To bring in those right individuals at the right time to talk to them and make sure you have that relationship.
Yeah, and you think about it, for us, we have 5 divisions that have 5 different type of product and 5 different type of footprint that are aimed not all at the same buyer within the company. So each division will have slightly a different playbook in a sense, where like our mainframe, you don't sell mainframe to a license of end users. You sell them by like petaflop of processing power or whatever. Like it's the way you're going to build that is very different. And the people to influence the purchasing is like a couple $1 million of when you get started talking, when you talk about mainframe software. It can run in the tens, 20 or hundreds of millions for very large customers. So when you think about that, you're not going to approach it the same way as if you're talking about our Clarity customers where we sell end user seat licenses. Or if you're talking about Symantec endpoint controlling that goes by how many devices you have on your network. So those are going to be different experience because you're going to try to go and influence different people. So the lower end, the more I would say the practitioner side of the house, it might be done more through like user groups or for influence of, hey, you have this product, you could use this different plugin or this different add-on for this product. That's going to be a more in the I would say more familiar ways of doing product-led type of growth, where you have people you're trying to do advertisement through the product. And then you have other divisions that literally the goal of our general managers for our Symantec division literally calls one-on-one every CISO at every single one of his customers.
I like it.
So then marketing has a very different involvement if you're going to do one-on-one call versus doing a mass email.
For sure. So What tools are you using for each of your different audiences that you engage? Like, what tools do you recommend, and how do you make the decision on those?
So we look at the tool based on the go-to-market strategy, and we try to do a overall go-to-market strategy. Although every division behaves a little bit differently, none of them are in hyper growth phases. All of them are established businesses. So you might not have like your chat bot on the website because we don't get that much traffic on the website because that's not where we send people
Yes.
primarily. And then if we already know them, we don't need to capture net new people. We already know who they are. We already know the company. We're not here to grow that side of the business. We're here to grow the footprint. So instead of having a chatbot, we might have more of an ABM enablement platform to be able to do heavily targeted campaigns and to be able to do media buy to those people in the right context of where we want to be. So I look at the tooling in a different lens than I have in the past. It's sometimes you look at the event, we have more than one event platform. But because of our environment, we need more than one event platform. Some of the event platforms will be more for the bigger events, if you think about like on 24, but we have other like more bespoke events to be able to do white glove type of event that are
Yeah.
like where you need to control the environment a lot more. You need to be able to have a more bespoke experience. Well, on 24 is great, but doing a bespoke experience is not automatically as easy to do with that. I'm not saying
Mhm.
it's bad, but inherently, actually, we're buying both. But we have to look at the tools differently. Sometimes redundancy is needed based on the context of the usage.
I like it. I like it. I mean, it's tough when you're small to be like, hey, we're gonna have two different tools to do this. But as you grow, I think it absolutely does make sense, especially if you have different strategies for what you're doing.
Yeah.
One question is, you talked about, hey, like we're not gonna have a chat bot on the website necessarily. It's just not what our buyers want, and that makes total sense. If your buyers aren't using it, like don't do it. But are you guys gathering intent data based on like which companies and who at those
Yes.
companies visit your
So
website?
we do first and third party intent data. So we are in the process of changing the entire marketing stack. So some of it is a little bit of what now versus what future we're doing. But if you think
Yep.
about it, like whether you're using HubSpot, Eloqua, Market, or whatever, you can have their cookie on your website to see where people are navigating. When you're sending them to the website, where are they going?
Yep.
That's interesting, but we're never going to have like high volume there or volume that is as meaningful as other company. Like ZoomInfo was getting a ton of traffic when I was there, but Broadcom doesn't get as much traffic. It's just not the nature of the business is different. But we use
Yeah.
a lot of third-party data. So we're using ZoomInfo intent data right now, and we'd say how do we merge it and mix it within our scoring, routing, and account scoring to understand, okay, well, these people are interested in this type, they're doing mainframe research, so we're going to go there, or they're doing security, or they're doing like end user automations, all those different things, or identity management, all of those different topics we ingest into our MarTech and basically do a lot of like prioritizations, both of the contact and the account based on it. We're looking at other vendors. My belief is um, in order to do things properly, we need to look at like very often one vendor will do enough to get started, and then maybe we need to go somewhere else to do like an extension. So we will very likely look at Bombora. Where does Bombora get us? Where do we like how do we use it? It's a great platform. Um, so good. I mean, like Six Sense uses their data and all that. They have a great partnership. We're looking at different platforms to be able to expand. It's the crawl, walk, run approach.
Yeah.
We currently have ZoomInfo. We're paying for it. Okay, cool. They have intent data. Let's use this. Let's build a framework for it. And then in the future, is there a better intent data provider out there? Cool. We already have the framework, which is changing the data source. And these days, I'm actually finding myself spending a lot more time with vendors around data manipulation, and data augmentation that I'm spending with actual technology to fulfill one specific needs of our marketing needs. Like the data for me is more important than the key. Like I'm talking with people.ai, I'm taking with OpenPrice, talking with all sorts of different vendors to make sure we have the right data that we need in the right places, in the right context. And then the tools will be more useful because you have the right data to feed to that tool, whether you're using like an event platform or an APN platform. If you're using Rollworks or you're using like On24 or using Visible, any of those platforms are very powerful, but they
Yeah.
need to be fed the right data.
Agreed. Agreed. I love it. Oh, so as we wrap up, is there any last piece of advice you would give somebody? Is there, if they're starting to really say, hey, let's focus on marketing to our current customers and growing those accounts?
Really understand where the value is. So you have like your total attainable market is within your customer. Where you're going, where are the growth pockets? Some of your product will be in a higher growth than others, and some of them might be even end of life. So how do you more money can you get out of the end of life? Where the growth area can you replace those? But understanding your data, understanding your customer base, understanding where they are, what are their pain points, and get very close with sales, because ultimately sales are the one that talk to the customer day to day.
Yep.
And they're going to know more than what you can ever think of as a marketer. But how do you capture that? And how do you basically posterize that into your system to make use of it? That's for me, the whoever can crack that nut systematically will make a lot of money in the future. For now, we're working on that. I don't think we're there. We're going to rely on a lot of our partners to be able to get there. But it's study the data. It's data, process, then technology. People think that technology is going to solve everything. No, no, no. If you don't have the right data and the right process, technology is just money wasted in a way.
Agreed. 100% on that. Well, Jeremie, we're about out of time. Thank you so much for joining us at Demand Gen Summit. And everyone, as you're watching, there are more sessions coming up after this, so be sure to stay tuned.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.